economic development. So we're going to be expanding that program a little bit more. Also with us here today is John Adams. John will stand up there. John has been doing our Brownfields program, but Nancy will be doing that in the future. He will continue to do our environmental reviews for the city and the county. But most importantly, John is taking over the city CDBG program. He's really happy about that, I'm sure. Yeah. Also with us here today is Cindy Wolfkuhl, our Executive Director, Grants and Community Programs. Thank you, Cindy, for coming. And she takes care of us all, and she helps us with everything that comes along, and especially she's in charge of the home and CDBG programs overall. Today we are... Okay. We also want to... I want to let you know that there is... we're recording this by MCAT. And Bobby Day is our office manager, and she's taking minutes for the meeting, so it's on record for home and CDBG programs. MCAT is here, so we do ask that you use the microphone as we pass the mic around to ask questions or talk about your projects. The other thing I want to mention is that we will have a break at 4:55. Bathrooms are down the hall. We also have some food available here. Please help yourself. There's drinks and cheese and some vegetables. And so what I'm going to do now is turn this over to Nancy. She'll talk about today's activities.
Thank you and welcome. I can't tell you how happy I am that Jean's going to be taking over the reporting for the HUD programs. It's a good thing, as Martha would say. Today's meeting is one of our annual meetings for the Community Needs Assessment process. It's the first step in the city deciding what it's going to be doing with its Community Development Block Grant funds as well as its Home Investment Partnership Program funds, which is known as HOME, or CDBG in terms of the first one. Today, however, we're going to be looking at projects and needs for not just the city of Missoula, but for the county as well. And so if anybody has projects, we would love to hear about them. In addition to projects, we just want to hear to what you perceive as needs. Some of them may be long shots, something may be something that we would like to see a long time in the future. Other things would be something that you think could happen fairly quickly. We're trying to focus on the more short term, within the next year or two would be the preference, but you're welcome to put anything on the table at this point. You should all have agendas that we handed out at the front. Just to go quickly through how we're going to do this after we do this beginning part, we're going to do each section of need and project in the various areas, starting off with housing, and for each category that we'll do, we'll first talk about needs, and we'll record those up here on our sheets, and then we'll do projects, and wander over here. Jean, you can help me with this. Take half of them, maybe, and I'll take the other half. We don't have a lot of these. There's probably about 40 of these. We don't think there will be more than 40 projects for Home or CDBG this year, but you never know. So at any rate, if you have a project that you'd like to propose for either city CDBG or for home, jot it down here. You'll note that we ask for a project description, how likely you think it is, what year you think you're going to start, and what public funding you're going to seek. For that part, put down an estimated dollar amount and whether you think it'll be home, CDBG, both, whatever. So we'll just start these. If you need one, grab it and pass it around. Yeah, Jim already has a question.
Is there a prize for the first question?
No.
No prize?
No, there's a merit.
Oh, never mind. Are these, I assume, new projects, or if you have a continuation, would you want us to put that down?
If you have a continuation, like a project like tenant-based rental assistance, put it down because you want to, if you're expecting to apply for funding again for this next year. That will certainly be true for a lot of people who have public service projects because a lot of those are ongoing. So housing will be the first section. The second will be economic development. We'll take a little break depending on time. We'll then do public improvements, which includes anything like infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, sewer, water, those kinds of things. And it can also include things like shelters for people, because in the HUD world, those are considered public improvements. And then finally, we will do our public services section. Public services include sort of basic needs kind of things: food, shelter, clothing, childcare, medical care, transportation, a whole raft of things. And when we get talking a little bit specifically about CDBG and home, you'll hear a little bit about what's available and what the limits are of that. So once we get all these information gathered, it will be the basis for our 2015 action plan, which we then put together with describes the needs, describes the potential projects to meet those needs. That then goes to City Council, and that will happen probably in April or May. And once we receive our funding from through Congress to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, we'll then be able to do awards, which means the projects can start July 1. So that's sort of the whole, in a nutshell. There was a calendar of events out there, so I hope you picked that up in one of your handouts. So with that, we will start. Are there any questions about anything? And feel free to get up and grab something to drink or something to nosh on as we go along here. No reason to stand on formalities. Okay, we're going to start with housing. If you have housing projects that you've written down on the sheet, and this would be a good time to start getting them ready to go, if you would hand them into Jean. She will sort them for us so we can get through them. So basically we're going to start off, and I'm just going to write down on the board if people would call out ideas. Actually, don't call them out. I'm going to hand you the microphone. If you would raise your hand and identify yourself and an organization if there is one, and let us know as succinctly as possible, and I'll try to get your words up on the board. And please correct me as I go in case I'm not hearing something correctly. So, we got.
Hi, Bob Oakes with North Missoula Community Development Corporation. I just wanted to let everybody here know, because I know that staff from the city already knows, but we did a north side, west side survey last summer, and we finally finished tabulating the results of that. So we'll be looking at it for our program development, because it specifies what needs are, including housing needs. But that's available on the city's website, Office of Neighborhoods website for sure, and also on the NMCDC website, so you can link it there. But north side, west side, the biggest housing. The thing that people appreciated most in their neighborhoods was seeing some of the housing rehab that had been going on, and the number one need that they thought they saw for housing in the neighborhood was rehabilitation of deteriorating single-family houses, and also rehabilitation of trailer parks.
My name is Heather McMillan. I'm the housing director for Homeward, and I just wanted to testify on the need for housing we're seeing in our community. We have a new project coming up. We've done a housing need. We have waiting lists, so we're intimately aware of the need, but new construction, affordable workforce housing, as well as the preservation of the affordable housing stock we have here in Missoula City and County. Both are very important, and we'll continue to work toward those goals.
Justice Ender, Summit Independent Living Center. I'd just like to emphasize there's always a need for more affordable, accessible housing. In addition to that, there are the city's kind of visitability initiative looking at making homes visitable so people not just can get into their own homes but visit that of their family and friends. In addition to that, there's something in the legislature right now that might make it hasn't passed yet, so that people with getting mental health discharge can't be discharged to the street or to a shelter, which might increase the need for affordable, accessible housing so those people have a place to go. Because we might, certain places might be legally required to find them somewhere to live that's stable.
We're hearing that that's probably House Bill 138, in case anybody wants to track it down. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Dean. I'm here as a private citizen. I have a background in design work, architectural design work, a limited background, I'll add. I've been advocating for the last few years for what I call micro-dwellings, which are discrete residences of 350 square feet or smaller, going down to as small as 120 square feet. The concept has been well proven by Rob Quigley out in San Diego. He's built several thousand of these, I think. And then just recently I had the opportunity to spend a few weeks in a nursing home. And I observed what I consider some inappropriate uses of that kind of facility for certain categories of people who are severely handicapped but still capable of functioning on their own. So I also want to advocate for a greater percentage of our housing stock be allocated for this category of citizen. Thank you.
You know these, as you start getting a little bit mainstream, and there's actually now a small house series on HGTV. So, can I live in 100 square feet? Dog has got to go.
Or the Montainers, 192 square feet.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Morton with the Human Resource Council. I agree with what's up there, obviously. For the home rehab component, we do have a rehab funded through the city CDBG, but we're not able to access home funds unless the home, as I understand it, plan does recognize mobile homes as a significant portion of the housing stock. So I would request you continue to include that in your plan.
The other nice thing about doing rehab with mobile homes is that depending on the age of the home and a few other circumstances, you can actually replace the entire home and consider it rehab. So that's kind of neat. Harlan?
Harlan Wells, Missoula Housing Authority. We also want to reiterate the rehabilitation of existing housing stock, but we also want to include the acquisition of housing stock that may be in the private sector that we can bring into the Housing Authority.
Okay, we've certainly seen that before in tax credit projects that were expiring that may no longer be in the market as affordable and therefore can be redeveloped and kept in as usable, affordable housing. Anybody else have housing? Here we go. I'll have you pass that down.
Hi, I'm Noreen Humes, and I'm with the Downtown Missoula Partnership. And I'm basically here to represent the Downtown Master Plan and its implementation. There's a lot of need and increase in housing in the Downtown Master Plan. And through a series of groups that have met with different stakeholders and different collaborations of stakeholders, we have kind of landed at a downtown market analysis. So this is a need because we really don't know. It's hard to get all the players together, basically. So we're dealing with zoning issues, land use, acquisition, renovation of existing housing downtown. What do we want downtown to look like? We don't want to enter into gentrification of our downtown, so we certainly want affordable housing on all aspects. We want senior housing, low-income housing, workforce housing. And so there's a lot to learn and a lot to figure out. And the only way that we have figured out with a large group of people discussing this issue is to do a downtown market analysis. We've also discussed how that interfaces with a business development retail market analysis, because you can't necessarily have one successful without the other. The retail market analysis would be in the economic development portion, but they tie significantly together. If we're going to have downtown housing, we need amenities for those people. It's too far for seniors to walk to Safeway or Albertsons for groceries. That's just an example. And then, of course, both of those issues relate to employment and economic development as a whole. So I don't know how to, I'm here because I'm learning. This is all new to me as far as how this process works and how the grant monies work. So I don't know how that works for both issues.
Did you want to describe a little bit about what you consider downtown? What your boundaries, how far out you reach?
So downtown, of course, is the urban core, as you all know downtown. We also consider downtown across the river into the hip strip, which is a significant area in the master plan for increasing housing in that particular neighborhood and area. And that typically goes to about Hellgate High School, but there's certainly some other pieces of that enter in. And then going West Broadway, of course, down the West Broadway corridor, and East Broadway as well, even past Van Buren area. We consider that still to be downtown. So the master plan, and also I should note that that does include north of the railroad tracks as well. The downtown master plan includes housing actually north of the railroad tracks. So I don't know if that helps.
Again, Heather with Homeward. Just to be specific, since this is our plan and we want to be thorough, reiterating Housing Authority's testimony as well, I want on the record that we see the preservation of the existing housing stock as well as preservation of housing subsidy as very important and needs to be part of this plan. I agree with Justice in the importance of universally designed and visitable spaces. Anything new or what we can as we rehab with our housing stock is important, as well as dealing with those scopes of work, developing or rehabilitating sustainably for long-term sustainable operations or lower utility bills for our residents, those sorts of things. So I think that should be part of our plan.
Second rounds, time's around now.
A couple of things I forgot previously was the tenant-based rental assistance. I would hope the city continues that use of home funds within the city. Also in the city and the county, our home buyer assistance program, I think, should be in the plan. And then following up on what Harlan was mentioning, I think focused efforts in Sealy and Frenchtown, Clinton. Some of us have been working in this room on those on one project in Sealy, so hopefully that Homeward can come to fruition.
Any other things to add to the discussion for housing?
I'm Lori Davidson with the Missoula Housing Authority. I just want to note for the plan that the Housing Authority just completed its annual update of its waiting list. We did that throughout December, and it's about a 2 to 3 month process as people have the right to, for about 2 months, to notify us that they want to stay on the waiting list. We, after the update, still have over 1,400 families, unduplicated families, on our waiting list. So the need is great. The need for housing subsidy, acquisition, rehab, all of the things that we've been talking about, and new construction as well. So it's a deep need.
People often like to convert that into years, like how long are you on the waiting list? Can you give an estimate for that?
For the voucher program, the wait is 3 to 4 years.
Lori, how does that compare right now with numbers from other years?
It's remained fairly consistent over the last at least 5 years. We start with a waiting list between 1900 and 2000, and we end up somewhere between 1400 and 1500. That's been very consistent for about the last 5 years.
And so the difference there is sort of attrition because people move and are no longer need to stay around or can't stay around that long.
We have no way to contact. We they either move out of the area, they've moved and haven't updated their address with us, they've found housing, or they are no longer interested in subsidized housing. There's a variety of reasons.
And to clarify that, so by the end of the year, it will be back up to 2,000. And then we send out a letter to every single person on the list, and then about 1,400 people stay there still on it. So each year, by the end of the year, we'll have another 600 people on the waiting list.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on needs? Are we ready to read some housing projects? Addendum.
Heather's reminding me of my job. And actually this came out quite clearly in the survey, is that people would like to see more opportunities for affordable home ownership, along with the rehabilitation of existing homes in the neighborhood, and actually see those as being two equivalent kinds of things. Trying to get young families into houses, to get them fixed up, and get them into home ownership. And I'll put, since you prodded me to get here, and I would put in a plug for community land trusts as well, so that investment subsidies that go into homes in neighborhoods are place-based. So that even if there's a revolving fund that comes back, usually that can go anywhere. But if it's individual homes in a land trust, those homes are there for forever, basically. And mobile home parks. We would like to see that, but I could also see combining the micro houses with rehabilitation of the mobile home parks, because one of the nice things about, especially on the west side where there are some of the more deteriorated mobile home parks, is the tree canopy. And if you could pull mobiles out and put in small houses on permanent foundations, you can sort of have an instant neighborhood that other people in the neighborhood would find vastly better than giant big box motel style apartment buildings with a destroyed tree canopy.
No, I'll poke him later. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that wraps up needs section, unless anybody has anything else. I'll read off some of the projects, and occasionally I might ask you to expand a little bit on what your project is if it's not terribly clear. And also, if I read a project that doesn't sound like we've had it as a need mentioned, we need to say what the need is for that if we haven't brought it up yet. Okay? What's that? Projects. We're on projects now. Why don't you switch over to the board? Oops. Okay. John, I think it would be neat if you could do, and this is going to be sort of loosey-goosey here, to use a real technical term. If you could write the projects down, and then we'll do a home and a CDBG column, so with the amounts in them, so we can guess. This is so you can see what your competition is going to be if you're applying for these jobs. Okay, without further ado, from Word. Applying to CDBG for $30,000 for basic needs assistance rental security deposits. Where's Word? Where'd you guys go? There you are. Hi. And tenant-based rental assistance for $50,000, which I assume would probably be home, which is what it has been. Sure. So we had Word Tibra was home for 50, and the other one was you just put B&A for rental security deposits, and that was for $30,000 for CDBG. Missoula Housing Authority, River Ridge Senior Housing. Acquisition and rehab gap funding. I had to read your handwriting there for a second, Harlan. You are going to seek funding, but don't say how much or from which program. We'll tell you later. Okay. So I'll repeat that basically, that you have contingent awards on the state level. You're not quite sure what the award's going to be or if the other ones will pan out. So you're not quite sure what the end result financing is going to be. Presumably when you put in an application, if you do that this year, you'll know that by then and you'll be able to narrow it down. But probably, okay. Second one is Parkside Apartments, and same thing. Are these tax credit projects?
Yes, it's a tax credit year 15 that we're a minority owner in.
All right, from Human Resource Council, tenant-based, and that one could be either home or CDBG or both. Okay, tenant-based rental assistance for HRC, $50,000 for home. First-time homebuyer assistance, $150,000. Oops, excuse me, $250,000. He went up. I went down. Yeah, really. And that would be home. Owner-occupied home rehab loan program, including mobile homes, $150,000. And that's probably more likely for CDBG, so I'm guessing. But it could be home, too. Okay, Homeward. Homeward's been awarded tax credit funding for 26 units of new construction in the old Sawmill District. They are thinking about, for home, $350,000. And for CDBG, $120,000. And she says, very likely. Okay. Downtown Missoula Partnership. Downtown Missoula Housing Market Analysis. Would that be something that you would apply for funding for? Okay. 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 So 25 would be CDBG. Yeah, let me have you, sorry about that.
So downtown market analysis study is approximately $45,000. We have $10,000 committed. I can come up with another 10, I believe, leaving $25,000 needed. This plan would include all aspects of what we have, what we don't have, what we need, and what we need to change to get where we want to be, which would include incentives and how to bring down land costs, how to do all of it, where we would put the housing in relation to the downtown master plan, what parts of the master plan are outdated and need to be updated with new information. So it's a pretty thorough study and how to get it done. Thanks.
Okay. And we have one from North Missoula Community Development Corporation to rehab existing unit. Hopefully it's more than one unit, because you said $35,000 per unit. Since we haven't heard about that yet, you want to describe briefly what that is?
Just have some opportunities, possibilities to get some pre-existing single-family detached homes. So we're looking at what it would take to go in and turn those around into CLT homes.
So it's single family, and would it be rental or home ownership? Do you know? Or is that not figured out yet?
It could be either. We would prefer home ownership to start, but also Pardon? It could go either way, but we still want to add homes to the community land trust, and that would be a way to do it. We're exploring some other ideas now too, and it may be premature to mention it now, to put it into a plan, because I don't. Well, one of the things that I've been shopping around is kind of a reverse equity, reverse annuity mortgage, where older people who own their own home, who want to stay in their home, could get the equivalent of what a reverse annuity mortgage would be, but would put the home in a land trust so that it would be affordable for the next generation when they were no longer able to live there. Preliminary phases of talking about it to a number of different people. But, in terms of the downtown development, I just want to chime in that it's perfect time to talk to MRA again about having a contribution to workforce and affordable housing downtown. And we were able to get a contribution of $140,000 when we did Clark Fork Commons from MRA, and it's worked out pretty well. So more of that kind of thing. I don't know if you would consider, Noreen, I don't know if you'd consider that downtown, but it's pretty close. Yeah.
One more I forgot to put on there. For 2016, where our offices currently sit at Russell Square, the investor wants to exit early, so there's space there for an additional 6 units that we would possibly looking for either home or CDBG to turn that space into home units or affordable housing units.
Imagined it all. Okay, that's it that we have on our list of projects. Do we have another?
Well, since this is a public hearing, I just wanted to, it goes without saying that all of these projects and what we're talking about they're all integrated into that overarching concern we all have about special targeted populations, whether they be seniors, homeless, people with certain special needs. But I think we need to say it on the record that when all of us in this room start to plan these projects, it's assumed we integrate into those overarching needs. So we need to make sure that gets on the record.
Yeah, all this process is very much need-driven, and I wish we had really deep pockets and that HUD gave us lots of money to meet all the needs that are expressed. When you look at it, in fact, the home and CDBG programs have had their funding reduced by about a third since we started. So, and the trend has not been up. So. It's really hard to tell. I mean, it's like one year we saw a 38% cut in home. The next year was a 3% cut. The next time it was 11% increase. So it's very variable. So, and it depends on the will of Congress as well, of course, because that's where all the funding comes out of. Okay, so that wraps up our housing section. Oh, yeah.
Today. One of the needs that I have been talking with colleagues about and friends was a transitional housing with like a life skills program embedded within it for the like 17 to 20-year-old population. Kids coming out of foster care, kids maybe emancipated, anybody lying under that. And the verdict goes back and forth. Is it 17 to 20, 17 to 24? Do we wait for frontal lobe development to turn back on? But basically, I like a group home style where there is safe adults that are employed within the program to teach them about budgeting, to teach them about grocery shopping, to teach them about filling out applications and all of that kind of stuff. I have a couple of friends in Helena that have said that the greatest need in their eyes is some of these foster kids where they've kind of exceeded their welcome inside of their foster home, but they still have no skills to take out into the community, and they're required to find housing, find a job, all of these kinds of things. So more of a supportive living environment for that age population.
Alrighty, thank you. We will shift gears now into economic development. So you want to flip over and start that one, Jean? The CDBG program is probably one of the main sources, besides some of the non-direct grants to the city, for economic development issues. However, they tend to define it rather narrowly in terms of job creation. So ignore that for this first part, for the needs. So what we want to hear here is economic development needs that you perceive in the community, and they can be any number of things. So comments? Justice?
Howdy, Justice Ender again with Summit Independent Living Center. I don't know what our role is compared to private entities in this, but bandwidth speeds in Montana, we have a lot of different job opportunities like financial, medical, that some of them can be done from home if you have a good internet connection. People are running phone lines through their internet now, and you're doing all these. I mean, there's a site called Flex Jobs where people go and try to get some of these telecommuting jobs, and this has a larger impact for a lot of people with healthcare needs that maybe can't leave their homes, can't do a day job, need a more flexible job. So it opens up avenues, but just because of our distance from some of these like routing hubs and servers and stuff, we're at kind of a disadvantage in Montana. We're at a much greater advantage now than we were a century ago when you had to literally live in New York City to participate on Wall Street. But to be competitive in some of these things, even internationally, maybe look at what it takes for us to have decent bandwidth, like really. And I know we put in for some of the Google grants, we didn't get it, all that kind of stuff. Those are really competitive. But look at that, because that benefits everyone. No one complains about having a clear phone line. No one complains about having a decent internet speed.
Bob?
Just to mention the North Side West Side survey again. People think that there ought to be a lot more brew pubs. I'm just kidding. People did say what they appreciated most. Many people for new development in the neighborhood where the North Side Kettle House and the Draft Works. They're really popular. People on the North Side really, really, really would like to have a coffee shop or a restaurant. Or a small neighborhood grocery north of the tracks. And people on both sides of the tracks would really like to see opportunities for healthy takeout meals.
You go to the coffee shop after you have visited the brew pub, right? Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Last week at the Housing Day at the Capitol, the governor spoke about the link between housing and economic development, and it's very difficult to have one without the other. And so I think we need to keep that in mind. We can have a lot of opportunity, but if entrepreneurs have no place to house their employees, they won't come.
Okay, this is a test for those of us who were at Housing Day. What was the governor saying that got stolen? Housing homes are the place that jobs go to sleep. That's the Governor Bullock's quote. Yes. Do we have any more things downtown on economic development? Environmental cleanup? Well, this discussion isn't necessarily limited to those. So if you've got a brownfields project or something else, then go for it.
The I'll go a couple of different directions. John may have not expected, but White Pine Sash is a strong neighborhood effort to try to encourage DEQ to require a residential level cleanup for the 19-acre portion of the site that's now vacant land. And if you couple that with Clausen Manufacturing, which is next door and does not need a cleanup, that's 26 acres of developable land that's next to city infrastructure, close to city parks, close to a school, close to downtown, and not to make it available for residential development seems to be a big mistake that we could regret well into the future. One of the other things that might be coming up in the North Side neighborhood is the school district has talked about maybe getting rid of Whittier School, which Head Start occupies now. And that could be a project for, at least for an assessment, for brownfield assessment in terms of what it might need if the asbestos, lead-based paint, etc.
Since I'm going to be doing the brownfields program here any day now, I should probably have the 15-second elevator speech of what brownfields is, but my understanding basically is that it's land or a building that either needs cleanup or appears to. Is that a short way of saying it, John? Sure. He's going to agree with me. Thank you. Okay, did we have anybody that has any more needs to add for economic development? Okay, does anybody have a project sheet? I've seen no project sheets. If we have no project sheets, we will have no projects. Okay? Just to forewarn. Is this a need or a project, do you think?
It's a project that was... I think that there might be a need for a brownfield assessment at where the Van Evans sawmill used to be on the north side. It's part of what would be the Erd District, the North Side Erd District. And it's kind of north of the city cemetery near that Washington Corporation gravel pit. Many years was the active sawmill. Same as the sawmill south of the river, or same as the sawmills that occupy the space where the mall is now. So, I mean, it would be nice to know what can happen there in terms of, or what needs to happen in terms of possible cleanup.
I like how everybody here who's probably over 50 are all nodding, remembering these different sites. We're all putting our age out there. Yeah.
So again, the downtown master plan is, I guess the umbrella of it is economic development for downtown. So that's why I kind of stalled out and didn't speak out. But the master plan was finished at the end of 2009, and then recession hit Montana. So there's a lot in there that's no longer valid. Some things have been done. Some things are really outdated. So I guess we have, and I don't guess, I know, we have talked about an update to that. It would take bringing another consultant in and paying lots of money for that. So we've decided that maybe that's not the route to take. But someone needs to spearhead that, and whether that's just getting some money for staff time to do that, or I don't really know where we're headed with that, but it kind of encompasses all of economic development for downtown, which includes arts and culture, it includes housing, it includes retail retention, it includes a retail strategy, so going out, not getting big box stores to come downtown, of course, because that's not Missoula, but rather going out and recruiting regional retail, whether that's going to Bozeman and saying, wow, this is a really successful business, would you consider opening a store in Missoula? And all of that relates to employment and increasing employment and keeping our downtown vitality up. So I didn't really know how to state the need, but there is definitely a need to take what we do have in the master plan and updating it so that it's viable for current times, and that the downtown master plan implementation committee can then move forward with specific updated data.
That was a terrific lead-in for me to let people know that if you have some idea of a need, or you have a project that you're thinking of that didn't come up today, or if you know of someone who couldn't be here today, or you're watching on MCAT and you couldn't be here today, you can still send those in to us. We'll be accepting comments and lists of needs and projects up until the application deadline, which is March 9th for CDBG and Home. And I believe there's an address on your agenda. If you're not here, then the address is grants, that's GRANTS, at co.missoula.mt.us. So feel free to send those in. And you guys did one for the Brownfields project sheet for that, right? Thank you. And Harlan wants to say something?
Question, is this counting as the letter of intent then? Or is there
This-
a letter of intent also?
This meeting? No, for CDBG and Home, there's actually a pre-application form that you need to complete. Yep. Okay. We are at the point for a little break. So I will sit down and you will all stand up or whatever and go over there and help yourself to some libation and whatever the equivalent fancy word is for food. And we'll take about a 5 or 10 minute break and come back and hit the rest of it. Thank you. this one?
I've got PS for public facilities and PS for public services.
A little. That's what I told him. It's the workshop tomorrow is from 9 to 11. That is overly optimistic in the terms of we think we'll be done a lot sooner than that. So don't necessarily plan the whole thing. So as John makes his way in, because he's going to record this for us, I wanted to make a little quick announcement about funding opportunities. We've talked a lot here about City, Home, and CDBG. The Grants Office is really a good source for lots of different kinds of funding, not just for CDBG, for City, CDBG, and Home, but also for state, which applications go through Missoula County. In addition, there are lots of other funding sources. There's the brownfield programs that Bob was talking about. There's economic development funds, Treasury State Endowment funds, Department of Natural Resource and Conservation funds that are all used for a whole variety of things. One example of that, of a project that was in the county, was in East Missoula. We did the help put in the sewer in East Missoula. And in doing that, we had 11 sources of funding for that. So I had a spreadsheet that was about this long. And we helped coordinate that. And it was everything from direct money into the project, as well as assistance to individual homeowners that needed to have their homes connected to the sewer and get assistance for that. So you don't have to think necessarily in terms only of Home and CDBG. What often happens is we'll get a project in and we'll look at it and say, well, you know, the better fit for this is, and we'll direct you to some other source of funding to say, well, this one might be too competitive, but this one is tailor-made for you, so why don't you think about putting in for that? So we try to guide these through so that we can get projects supported as much as possible without having to go through individual just Home and CDBG. So Jean, in the timely manner that she did, is just handing out a big spreadsheet that shows you a lot of the other different programs, who's eligible for them, the amounts, and those kinds of things. So it's a really interesting document, and if you have questions about or are interested in any of those programs, let us know. If you hear of other programs out there that you don't think we've thought about, let us know that too, and we'll be happy to work with you. So we'll turn it over to Jean to talk about public improvements.
Thank you. What we're going to do is see who has public improvement ideas. I saw some projects that were listed, so if you could please identify yourself, and restate what your projects were as well. But first of all, let's talk about what a public facility is or an infrastructure project. Typically, public facilities and infrastructures are brought together by the city or the county representatives, and they require our city staff, and it requires approval by the Board of County Commissioners for county projects and by City Council for city projects. Missoula County and the City of Missoula have been very good in doing a number of projects over the years. We've done street and sidewalk projects, we've done sewer projects all over the community. We still have some revolving loan funds from the CDBG program to do individual homeowners that don't have their homes connected to sewer yet. We have very little money in that, but it is possible to get maybe 5 or 10 homes connected if you have friends and neighbors that need a connection to their home. With public facilities, what we're talking about recently are the larger projects like homeless shelters. I noticed domestic violence shelter is a possibility. The food bank is a possibility. I want each of you to talk about each of those projects. When we do a public facility project or an infrastructure project which involves constructions, there are regulations with regard to Davis-Bacon Act and a number of other contract and wage and hour division requirements. So we try to get that information out as quickly as possible so that when the contractors make their applications for the bids, they know what they're getting into when they do a project. So in any event, we're always happy to do those. It's always nice to have a turnkey project and see something, or a ribbon cutting and see something take place. So as your agencies work as developers for projects, you'll be working in conjunction with the city or with the county to make those things happen in this category. So everybody to start.
Jessica Allred, I'm with Missoula Food Bank, and we would like to identify the need for a new facility for our community's food bank. Right now we are serving 1 in 7 people community-wide, and the space that we are in right now is just insufficient. So looking for a new facility.
So our need is food insecurity. Okay.
Harlan Wells, Housing Authority again. So after much debate with the city attorneys, it was finally decided that the Housing Authority is a public entity and that we would have qualified for MRA funds to help build new offices, but that pretty well pigeonholes us to very specific locations. So if there was other funds that could help build new offices for the Housing Authority.
Project seeking funds, right? Leveraging or match funds. Anybody over here? No.
Not this year, but probably 2016, the YWCA will be looking to replace our very aging domestic violence shelter, and it will be new construction or rehab, likely.
Hi, I'm Kathy from Missoula Parks and Recreation, and our need, of course, is always for age-appropriate playground in neighborhoods where kids don't have a lot of opportunity where their parents can't drive, or so they need to have a place to play, and it's accessible and easy to get to.
Noreen with the Downtown Missoula Partnership. I won't be submitting a project for this, but definitely a need that we have been talking to Parks and Rec about is the Caris Park restrooms are seriously problem. They're not safe anymore. They don't allow for winter use for homeless people or anyone walking through or being at an event in downtown. So that's definitely an issue.
And I would add that as we're building new playgrounds, the playground usually comes first, but I think a great need is to include a restroom with those playgrounds. So accessible, yes.
Accessible restroom, excuse me. You can put a restaurant in there too. And a coffee shop. Sydney, do you want to mention the art museum project? Nancy's not here.
So what Jean is referring to is the art museum and the, I want to call them Bicentennial, but that's not who they are anymore. Adventure Cycling. Received funding from the state to create an art park in the downtown between the two agencies. One of the things that is still needed is funding to create what's called a Portland Loo there, which is an outside restroom facility. So they're looking for funding for that project.
Anybody else have needs for public facilities or ideas?
I'm Nicole with Missoula County Public Works and Building, and currently at the moment we're in the works of the Lolo to Missoula Trail and other trail systems around the county, including Sealy, Grant Creek. We just finished up one in Frenchtown. Usually they're CTEP funds, but we're always looking for additional funds to keep creating trails for safety and neighborhood improvement.
Again, from the neighborhood survey, folks that live north of the river would really like to see better access to the river on the north side, and maybe that could be accomplished down behind Homeward there. So.
Any other thoughts?
Since you were talking about trails, and this is purely self-serving, a trail connect the bike trail from out Mullen to Reserve, because there's basically a giant gap there where you have to take your life in your own hands when you ride your bike across.
Are there any infrastructure improvements that need to go with the sawmill site? Projects that you were thinking of, Bob? Meaning sewer, water.
For White Pine?
Mm-hmm.
Cleanup is
Yeah, okay.
need. I think that the market would take care of lots of different things that could happen there. If I think that if DEQ could cause the polluter to actually clean it up, that the market would take care of. I mean, there's too much land too close to everything. I don't, in terms of infrastructure, I think the infrastructure is pretty much close at hand. I will mention something for trails, though, and this is a long time wish list from people on the north side, would be to develop a trail from the north side overpass down next to the Bitterroot Spur on the north side. And there are a couple of pieces of that. One is next to DraftWorks and the other is down next to Safeway. That, because that plan is there, the developers were forced to build. But something where the railroad bridge is across the river, that would connect that trail to the trail on the south side. And for years people have talked about something, a cantilever, bike path and walkway off the side of that railroad bridge to go over to that. I mean, it would be huge. It would be a way to make all the wonderful developments on the south side of the river at the mill site more accessible to people on the north side, and also improve their river access too. Pardon? Grade level crossings? Yeah, well, let's get a whole bunch of them.
Okay, anyone else? John, I'll just read off the list of public facilities which are behind me. Thank you very much. Missoula Food Bank's asking for a new community food bank facility. It's rated at 10, very high. They're looking for $400,000, and what CDBG it'd have to be CDBG funds. YWCA new domestic violence shelter. 2016, seeking funding, yes, as much as possible. Missoula Parks and Rec. Okay, she's going to. Yeah. If you want to make a note up there, John, Cindy says 250 for the Y. For Parks, yeah. For Parks and Rec, Northside Park Playground, very important, very likely. Replacement with, accessible appropriate equipment. Year 2016, CDBG funds, $40 million? No. 40K. There's a 40,80,000. Oh, 40 to 80,000. $40 to $80,000 in CDBG funds. Great. Thank you. We're going to switch gears here and go lastly into public services. Color should we use for public services? Purple. Okay, public services. Everyone has a voice in this, an opinion, an idea, and I'll start anywhere. Please start telling us your needs for public services.
Hi, my name is Kelly Battaglia with Homeward. Financial literacy, education, and counseling is definitely a need in the community. Homeward recently did an assessment in the community with other human service providers. Well over 50 providers were surveyed. We had over 40 individuals respond from various agencies, and overwhelmingly they agreed that improved financial literacy was a very, very key skill for their clients being self-sufficient and being able to move off of public assistance programs and be self-sufficient and economically secure. Can I keep going if I have the mic? And this is related. These are, I'm sorry, guys. I was going to do a song and dance too, but so all related is additionally foreclosure counseling services. While we have seen a slight decrease in the number of foreclosures, we have also seen an increase in the more complicated cases. We are spending far more time with each client than we have historically, which is hard to believe. But the amount of staff time that it takes to come to some resolution for our clients is a lot. So that we continue to have a need in the community for that. Also, in speaking with both as a affordable housing developer and working with other nonprofit organizations in the community, we have heard over and over again that renters workshops, tenancy education is a need to help, once again, kind of target disadvantaged populations, lower income individuals, to help them understand the rights and responsibilities of being a renter.
We still have a need for emergency housing for homeless families. We saw a huge waiting list this year, up to 18 on the waiting list at a time. That's unsheltered homeless families. Since we started our rapid rehousing program in November, it has seemed to mitigate the problem somewhat, but we still, last night, we added 5 rooms in November for the winter, and last night we still had 4 families on the waiting list. So I don't think it's going away.
We typically have asked for funding and will continue for Meals on Wheels for people who are low and moderate income. We've already exceeded the goal for the entire year, and we're only midway through. So that means we're getting more and more people, older adults, that are in need of home-delivered meals, which is one of those critical. They're housed, but for the most part, but that in order to stay in their homes in an uninstitutional setting, or non-institutional setting, is important, and nutrition is an important part of that. There's pretty much not any service that helps people stay independent for older adults that doesn't need to be subsidized in some regard, whether it's respite care or any kind of home care that they may need, homemaking, home chores, home maintenance, all of those kinds of things that help them stay in their own home that people who are low or moderate income can't afford on the private market, that need support, and our aging population is growing rapidly. But that's just to state in generic terminology the needs of older adults. That's not what we would be asking for. And I'll just say that we're asking for the same kind of support for Meals on Wheels as we did in the previous year. Yes, it's for seniors and people with disabilities. However, we go for different funding for those that are under 60 who need it.
Just from a building division standpoint, over the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in sales, but a lack of education and research on the home buyer front and the realtor front. And we want to either create or partner with somebody to create some type of program that helps educate homebuyers on things like open permits and liens and zoning. We have a lot of people that buy houses without doing their research and then come to find out they have a lot of problems with the house. So we're hoping to kind of reach out to the community and create something to help inform people.
Just to let you know, so Homeward does a first-time homebuyer program, so we do education and housing counseling. And so sitting down with a HUD-approved housing counselor to look at, a person's, before they make any type of housing purchase choice, absolutely. So we should definitely connect. And I would like to reiterate that importance, while we don't receive and go for funding for this per se, that we work with the Human Resource Council to do that under Public Services there is a need for first-time homebuyer education and free housing counseling. I think when we saw the economic downturn and foreclosure crisis in this community and across the nation, people have now a new understanding for the importance of first-time homebuyers having that education and being empowered before they make the biggest financial decision of their life. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's also important if we can also note post-purchase education, home maintenance, post-purchase education. Yes, that would be great.
Just to clarify, this is, does it matter what the funding source is? Are we talking about the CBO grants at the county, or are we just talking about CDBG and home? Anything. Well, how long do you have? Yes. Well, I do that enough. We see the need for continuing assistance with disability claims. The county currently funds the interim assistance program. We work with folks. As you know, there's probably a 96% denial rate for first-time applicants for SSI and other disability programs. So those folks often are indigent during that process, and it's 18 months to 24 months to finally get through the appeal process. So we hope that service continues. Also for tenant-based rental assistance, continuing support for case management that's associated with that program, both at HRC and Word. We are not allowed to take TBRA home funds and pay for case management services that are needed during that program, so support for that is welcomed.
So I don't know how many people picked up on that wait list for the Housing Authority for vouchers, but 3 to 4 years, 5 years. Every day I see people coming in needing emergency assistance, and it's just not in our purvey. So I would like to reiterate, the Y and HRC and anybody else who is providing short-term housing solutions for homeless, recently homeless, chronically homeless. I mean, that's I see that need every day, all day long, and that's just nothing we can do about it.
I'm Jean Zozel with Garden City Harvest, and just kind of playing off of what Susan was talking about earlier, we try to make locally grown produce accessible to everyone in the community, regardless of income level. So addressing issues of food insecurity. And we've asked for funding and will again this year for one particular site of ours, the Orchard Gardens Farm, which is located next to the Homeward facility, the Orchard Gardens and HUD housing complex right next to the farm. And a lot of the work that's done there, the food is grown in part for the residents that live in that complex, but also for clients of the food bank. And we do a mobile market where we deliver to different senior facilities food so folks who are living at Silvercrest or Missoula Manor can walk out of their apartment and buy produce right there and have it accessible to them. So we're looking at all sorts of ways through that site and other work that we do to try to make food available to people who have housing issues and don't have the money for enough food to eat, and on and on. So.
My name's Carly. I'm with an organization called Conscious Pursuits. I'm going to, again, advocate for that 17 to 25-year-old population. The program that I'm proposing is called GROW, and it's basically what we're calling life skills immersion. But embedded in that is the financial literacy and the financial counseling and tenant education, sexual responsibility, all of these things that have an economic fallout once the student is actually abiding within the terms of their program. But another thing I wanted to add, we talked about the home care and household maintenance, and also on top of that is end-of-life care in addition to hospice. So there's the respite kind of services in addition to hospice, whether that's someone coming in and coordinating the entire thing, or someone coming in and providing household assistance so that the family can grieve. In all of that, there's I don't know much of the hospice organizations in town, but I know that the need exceeds the service at this point.
Hi, I'm Corinne Lawrence from the Parenting Place, and I think a huge need is for us to address what is really an epidemic of child abuse and neglect from a prevention standpoint rather than an intervention, or not rather, but in addition to. We'll always need intervention, unfortunately, but like any other healthcare epidemic, we can seriously reduce the need for intervention by promoting prevention. And so our projects will be requesting funding that has proven to actually prevent the occurrences of child abuse and neglect. Not as our part. I mean, obviously there is a need, but you can then if it's a need, you can put it.
The access to emergency food assistance, and particularly to at-risk populations, including the senior population and children. This year, Missoula Food Bank will request funding for our Kids and Power Pack program, which provides nutritious food to children who are living in chronic hunger and don't have enough to eat over the weekends.
Just to make the continued pitch for the homebuyer education and financial fitness. I've recently seen some of our households have gone out to try to get home equity loans that take out money against their home. And because of the way our program is situated where the equity is limited, there are some national banking institutions that maybe don't have, folks that are paying close enough attention, and so the homeowners have the ability to get themselves into trouble, taking out too much money against their home when they don't have enough equity in it. So it's really important. So what I've been trying to do right now is working with our title company to try to make the fact that we have these ground leases attached to our, to our homes, to our titles, and because the underwriters and the banking institutions are literally just overlooking it, and so they have the ability to get our home buyers underwater. So I think since I can't control the major institutions, we really need to hammer on them with the financial fitness and the home buyer education to make sure that they're watching out for themselves. So.
Anybody still working on project lists to hand in? Okay. So far with needs, any other speakers on behalf of community needs for public services? Get everybody? Okay, John, can you help me with our project list? Oh, sit, John. Sit, John. Oh, he's here. He's here. Go ahead. All right, the one I have on top is from Conscious Pursuits, GROW, G-R-O-W, Life Skills Immersion Supported Structured Living Environment. Yeah, G-R-O-W. Year to start this year, seeking funding for as much as we can. It's called GROW. Do you want to spell it out? What does it have? It's just GROW. It's Life Skills Immersion Supported Structured Living Environment. And it's encompassing housing, economic development, and public services. Human Resource Council, assistance with disability claims in the IAP program, $250,000. Now the source there would be counties, CBO funds. The other item he has is case management for tenant-based rental assistance, 2015, $25,000. $250 for IAP and $25 for TBR. Right. From Garden City Harvest, the Orchard Gardens Food Security Project, very likely starting this year. Actually, the project is divided over 2 years, it appears, ongoing. So in 2015, the request is for $20,000. CDBG. And also in 2016 would be another 20,000 because we only limited it to two to 2 years. It provides funding to grow produce and make it available to all community members regardless of income, and particular residents of Orchard Gardens. Housing facility includes farm, community gardens, food education, work with residents, kids, etc.
You see this $20,000 number a lot. If you apply for CDBG in the public service category, you can only apply for up to $20,000. If you apply for something, oh, thanks. If you apply for something else, then it can be a bigger amount.
Homeward, financial literacy program serving low, moderate income persons. Seeking funding, $150,000. Oh, wait.
Okay. So it's going to be, it's all in one package, although I haven't, it's all services. It's the financial literacy program, the foreclosure prevention counseling program, and renter workshop, tenant workshop education program. That's the total program cost. But so I will be asking for $20,000, and I'll edit this. Otherwise, I look.
Oh, I'll take your sheet back. You're going to edit it? Okay. All right. Cindy, YWCA, emergency housing for homeless families, $20,000. Missoula. CDBG, $20,000. Missoula Aging Services, support for low and moderate income seniors, Meals on Wheels. Both years requesting $30,000, probably per year. It's an ongoing program as well. Is the one that comes out of CDBG or the count? Does it come out of, you're asking, or are you doing a CBO? Okay. County. Okay. So for CDBG, it's the senior program and underage for this county CBO funding. Parenting Place asks for respite childcare. It's nurturing and socialization opportunity for children at risk of abuse. Looking for $10,000. Parenting classes. That's the next item. Evidence-based education in safe, effective, and appropriate parenting skills. $15,000. Pre-release center, expanded classes. No, next. Yes, part of Parenting Place. That helps the establishment of healthy relationships, parenting skills, and outreach to families outside of the pre-release center. That's $20,000. And last but not least, the Parent Aid Home Visitation Program, long-term support for parenting needs, $20,000.
Home column is because home can't pay for public services.
Missoula Food Bank. This is supporting nutritious food for chronically hungry children over the weekends during the academic year. And that's seeking $15,000. Thank you.
Next. Good thing we stopped that. This pen was going to my head. Okay. Alrighty, so we have covered the 4 major areas that we deal with in the grants office. We wanted to thank everybody for coming. We know it's hard to come out on a cold winter day. We normally do this in September, so January is a challenge. I hope you have taken one of the each of the handouts. I wanted to point out for the income limits that are there, those are not going to be the income limits that you'll be functioning under for CDBG and home. HUD has not yet released those, so we're waiting for that to come out. All this that you have said today will be gathered together and then added to any comments we receive via email or letter or whatever, and we'll put those together into this year's action plan that the city will produce and send to City Council. Am I done with my part? My part? What's that? Yeah. Oh, you want me to do the next thing? Okay, so next steps. After you did this, for those of you who are interested in home or CDBG funding, there is tomorrow morning from 9 to 11 an application workshop for those 2 programs for the city of Missoula that will be held over in the grants office, which is now at 223 West Alder. Those of you who knew what the county print shop was, that is where we are now. We are across the street from the depot, parking lot anyway. It'll be held in our conference room there. We have copies of the application for CDBG here, and you're welcome to pick one up. We'll also have them available tomorrow, obviously. Just to give you a sense of what is available in terms of money, this, of course, is an estimate. We're basing this on what happened last year. We don't know if funds will go up or down. But last year, we received a total CDBG allocation of $557,000 some dollars. Of that, the maximum that we can give to public services project is 15% of that total. So that means there's a maximum of $83,652 for public services, which at $20,000 a crack, that's 4 projects. So highly competitive. 20% goes to administration and planning activities, like putting on this workshop and producing documents. And then the balance of that can go to any other category of the housing, public improvements, or economic development. And that totals $362,490. What happens is we usually do a preliminary award recommendation, and then when we find out what the actual amount is, we may amend awards up or down, depending on how much we get. We also have additional money coming in as people repay loans and that kind of thing that will add to that, but we don't know how much that is yet, but we'll see as we go along. So that's a quick overview of what's out there for CDBG. Jean, do you want to do home?
My brand new home program. Estimated 2015 home allocation is estimated the same as last year, $359,000. There is a set aside reserved for CHOTO projects. The minimum is 15%, and that amount is $53,850. There is a 10% reserve for city administration and planning. And the amount available for other eligible home projects is $269,250. So, next step here is we did have you sign an email list. We'll make sure to have all your our lists updated for your attendees, and you will have. We do appreciate your feedback. If you could get more ideas to us by our deadline, which we're looking at, the deadline for comments is March 9th. So who do you think will be coming tomorrow? Some idea? Heather? Okay. Terrific. Okay. We will have coffee and bagels to keep us awake. Thank you all for coming. Good night.